Have you ever noticed that there are moments in your life when everything seems to be peeled back from its normal veil, and you suddenly hear the hidden pulse of reality? A seemingly trivial conversation sounds as if everyone is reading from an invisible script. Time no longer follows a linear flow. It stretches, expands, slows down, making each moment dense and full of meaning. Meanwhile, your mind soars, racing through possible scenarios like a traveler testing parallel paths into the future. Neuroscience has revealed a partial truth. In times of stress, creative breakthroughs, or quiet isolation, the brain's normal filters, which block out 99% of the flood of sensory data, fade in. You tap into a primitive processing capacity that's always there, but usually obscured. In those moments, the disparate pieces of your life suddenly connect into patterns. Déjà vu becomes a familiar rhythm, and you find yourself in the right place at the right time with almost uncanny precision. Think of your consciousness as an ancient radio, but one so sophisticated that it can tune into channels of other realities. When you enter what heart math researchers call coherent states, your heart doesn't just pump blood, it becomes a glowing beacon, emitting a powerful electromagnetic field that extends nearly 10 feet around your body. In that moment, you're no longer a self-contained individual, but a living broadcasting station, emitting signals that sophisticated instruments can pick up across the room. And what's even stranger, over the course of 3 decades at Princeton's Peer Lab, random number generators designed to create random streams of data have begun to produce regular patterns when people enter states of focused consciousness. The odds of this happening by chance are so slim that they're almost impossible. Your consciousness is no longer a passive observer. It's a co-creator, tapping into the quantum layer of reality itself. In the brain, this phenomenon is called neural coherence, like an orchestra of billions of musicians suddenly playing a single symphony. Coherent brainwaves appear, and in that synchronization, a door opens. Suddenly you see the pattern hidden in the chaos. The solution to an old problem appears as if painted in a flash of light, and you feel connected to something beyond the individual, beyond words. When monks or meditators enter deep meditation, the posterior parietal cortex, the center that defines the boundaries of time and space, quiets. As a result, they enter an experience where time no longer flows, but unfolds like a calm lake. In emergency situations, explosive stress has a similar effect through a different route. Adrenaline thickens the moment, allowing you to process the world at an almost inhuman speed. This is not a new power, but a release from everyday limitations. Your consciousness is always larger, only constrained by the filter of survival. When the filter is released, whether through meditation, creative flow, or unexpected events, a kind of second sight opens up. Remember, your environment is also participating in this music. Your brain's frequency is tuned to the Earth's Schumann resonance, the fundamental rhythm of the atmosphere. When the sun explodes, when the moon changes phases, when the geomagnetic field vibrates, the invisible strings that connect you to the cosmos vibrate. Sensitive people feel it as a surge, a call from deep within. Vivid dreams, accurate premonitions, sudden flashes of understanding, none of this is accidental. It is a sign that your consciousness is attuned to the heartbeat of the planet, that the door between you and the cosmos has opened. The pineal gland, a tiny jewel hidden deep in the center of the brain, has long been called the third eye in ancient traditions. But this is more than just a symbol. Inside it are magnetite crystals, microscopic particles that respond sensitively to the Earth's magnetic field and cosmic fluctuations. Every time the geomagnetic field shifts, every time the solar wind blows, your pineal gland vibrates silently, like a biological antenna picking up signals from the sky. This is not imagination. This is a biological mechanism, a bridge between the rhythm of human life and the vast pulse of the universe. Yet the deepest insights into consciousness, the ability to modify and even manipulate reality, are often sidelined by mainstream academia. Because these discoveries fundamentally shake traditional materialism, and that's why we share these insights only through channels reserved for those who dare to seek them out. The Insights Academy newsletter. There, you'll find not just knowledge, but ancient principles that modern quantum physics is only beginning to awkwardly confirm. Stop and feel. In the moment you cultivate gratitude, appreciation, or focused intention, The electromagnetic field of your heart doesn't just change, it brightens. It expands, becomes more organized, more powerful, as if you were sending out a signal to the higher frequencies of reality. When you understand that the electromagnetic environment from your location to the phases of the moon can amplify or dull your awareness, you begin to choose the time, the space, the context, and each of these decisions becomes a ritual, a conscious step in the dance of reality. Science has given us the tools to measure these fields. Machines can pick up coherent heartbeats, synchronized brain electrical activity, magnetic fields emanating from the body, but the most astonishing thing is, you feel it. As your consciousness expands, your reality filter doesn't fail. It's enhanced, like a lens shifting from opacity to hyper-resolution. You begin to notice layers of information that were always there, but previously obscured by the noise of existence. And then there's the question. Your personal reality signature. Like a fingerprint, no two people are alike. The way your nervous system filters through data, the way you walk into a crowded room and immediately notice the exits, or the emotional atmosphere, or the lighting and edges, all of these are your signatures in reality. Some people, having experienced trauma, develop eyes that are always alert. They pick up on every little vibration. The gentle squeeze of a hand, the tremor in a voice, the subtle movement in the corner of a person's eye. It's not an illusion. It's an adaptive ability, a kind of super sense forged in the crucible of experience. In contrast, creative minds are born with patterns. They spot connections that others miss. In a design, they know when a detail breaks the harmony. In a story, they sense when a passage is out of tune. They don't find fault. They simply hear the soundtrack of reality and know when a note is off. Take Sarah, the graphic designer. She noticed that her computer often froze when she was working on projects that her heart wasn't really in agreement with. At first, she laughed it off and blamed the software. But when she looked closely, she realized it was a signal. The stress, the trade-offs with clients, were causing her body to produce subtle electromagnetic fluctuations to the point of interacting with the tool. The machines seemed to mirror her inner discord. This may sound like a myth, but it is the physics of life. Consciousness does not reside in your skull. It flows in the electricity, in your heartbeat, in the magnetic field around you, and interacts with the world in ways that science is just beginning to detect. You are a piece of the universe observing itself, and each of your individual imprints is a unique way that reality experiences itself. Remember those heart rate variability patterns we talked about? They're not just numbers on a biomonitor screen. They're invisible waves that travel out of your body, hitting and affecting sensitive electronics. This may sound counterintuitive, but for some people, it's a regular experience. Computers freezing up during stress, phones vibrating when there's no incoming calls, lights flickering when moods are high. This is the electromagnetically sensitive part of their personal reality signature, a trait honed over years of living, creating, facing, and interacting with subtle energies. This sensitivity is not an on divided by off switch. It is a spectrum, a wave that lies at a different point for each person. Some people seem to sense the vibration of a phone from another room, as if their nervous system were a radio receiver. Some people get headaches when they enter a certain building where the artificial light and artificial magnetic fields are out of harmony. Others feel the full energy of a person just by sitting nearby, as if the very air around them is being stirred. This is not mystical. This is biophysics talking to you. And your personal reality isn't just a sign of these biological reactions. It's also a sign of what I call error patterns, meaningful glitches, coincidences that carry messages. Maybe it's the streetlights that flicker when you're angry. Maybe it's the animals around you acting strangely, as if they sense something you can't see. Maybe it's the recurring appearance of mysterious sequences like 1111, 333, 777, whenever your life enters a transition. These aren't signs of madness. They're windows into how your nervous system is communicating with layers of information that lie below the threshold of your normal awareness. Imagine you start a synchronization journal. Every time something unusual happens, an electronic device malfunctions at a time when you're confused. A dream displays a symbol you encounter in real life. or an animal acts strangely around you, you record not just the event, but also your emotional and mental state at that moment. Over the course of a few weeks, patterns will emerge. You'll begin to notice that technology often fights back when you avoid facing the truth, that certain number sequences signal important crossroads, that animals come to you when you're emitting stillness and harmony. This opens up a whole new world. You begin to see life as an energy map, with every tiny phenomenon pointing the way. The faulty patterns are not meant to make you superstitious or obsessed, but to help you understand that the universe and your nervous system are communicating in a unique language, a language of signals, synchronicities, and waves. And then you realize a deeper truth. When you walk into a room and immediately feel the tension from a recent argument, you're not imagining it. When you find yourself drained of energy just by being around one person while another person lights you up, you're not exaggerating. This is a measurable electromagnetic reality, the interference between your biofield and the biofield of another person. When you understand this, you move from being a passive reactant to being a conscious navigator. You stop being a victim of invisible signals and start reading them, interpreting them, and using them as your guide. Your reality signature becomes a living map showing you which environments support you, which people resonate with you, which decisions are in line with your natural flow. This is more than just knowledge. This is the awakening self-awareness that is the foundation for deeper chapters. How to move between states of reality, how to influence outcomes through intention, how to recognize when you are operating in expanded awareness rather than just following old programming. And once you master this language, it becomes clear. Your consciousness has never been confined to your skull. It is a living field, in constant conversation with the world. The Institute of Cardiovascular Mathematics has revealed a secret that has both neuroscience and spirituality listening. When two people sit within a meter of each other, their hearts begin to speak an invisible language. Their beats merge, their vibrations becoming a common song. Sensitive magnetic field measuring devices show that the heart emits an electromagnetic field nearly 8 feet wide around the body, permeating the space like a living halo. And when one person enters a state of coherence, a smooth, elegant sinusoidal heartbeat, the other person's heart begins to resonate within minutes. Imagine the implications of this. Every emotion you experience leaves its own signature in the electromagnetic field around you. Anger creates a broken, chaotic pattern. Gratitude, compassion, peaceful presence create a rhythmic, graceful wave, like sacred music. And no one is immune. Everyone around you is drawn into the music you are broadcasting. Dr. Roland McCrady's team has proven what humans have always intuitively known. Individuals who maintain a state of inner coherence can influence the group around them. In just 90 seconds, blood pressure drops, cortisol decreases, and alpha brain waves increase, signs of alert relaxation. A heart filled with coherence can change the physiology and spirit of 15 other people at the same time. But that's just the surface. Beneath your conscious awareness, countless channels of information are active. Your autonomic nervous system reads micro-expressions on your face, which last as little as 40 milliseconds, and the mirror neurons in your brain fire, making you feel other people's emotions before your conscious mind can process them. Pheromones and chemical signals pour through the air, traveling straight to your limbic system, blaze a path that bypasses your conscious mind and leaves a deep impression on your body. This is why you can instantly dislike someone or trust a stranger as if you've known them for a long time. Dr. James Oschman's research goes further. He found that the hands of touch therapists emit electromagnetic frequencies between 0.3 and 30 Hz, the same range that science has shown helps regenerate cells and heal tissue. When they place their hands on a client, their brain waves synchronize, creating interpersonal neural connections. A healing presence is not some intangible miracle. It's measurable, a flexible heartbeat, a regulated brain, a coherent electromagnetic field, even in the midst of stress. And when many hearts are in sync, the effects extend beyond the individual. Studies of group meditation show that crime rates drop, hospital emergency room visits drop, and even random number generators, which are designed to be completely unpredictable, start to show orderly patterns. The collective consciousness creates ripples that ripple into the physical environment. The Transcendental Meditation Foundation has dubbed this the Maharishi effect, and more than 40 studies have confirmed it. When just 1% of the population is in sync, society changes for the better. This brings up a simple but shocking truth. Your heart does more than pump blood. It is an electromagnetic transmitter 5,000 times more powerful than your brain. It not only shapes your inner experience, but it also reaches out to the world around you. Every time you choose gratitude over stress, you are not only healing yourself, you are sending out a signal, regulating your environment. In a chaotic world, this responsibility becomes a sacrament. 3 minutes of focused gratitude is enough to create a 6-hour protective effect, helping you stand firm in the chaos of others. When you breathe slowly in sync with your heart, you don't just relax, you glow. You become an anchor, a stable center that others can cling to in the midst of the collective emotional storm. Understand, your presence is your most powerful tool. When you walk into a room, you bring an electromagnetic field woven with emotion and intention. You can sow chaos or bring stability, and once you are aware of that, every interaction, every relationship, every social moment becomes an opportunity to choose the vibration you want to emit. Once you truly understand your power over the nervous systems of others, you will realize that no interaction is neutral. Every time you make eye contact, every time you listen, every time you breathe in the same space, you are sending waves. Those waves can bring coherence and peace, or they can inject a layer of chaos into the collective web. The choice is yours, but the effect is inevitable. You are not separate from the world. You are a node in the invisible electromagnetic grid where every heart, every emotional state weaves into the collective energy field of humanity. And when you master your signal, you become a pillar, an anchor in the collective vortex from which others find their own coherence. Do you remember that moment when you were in a car accident and time seemed to shatter? The world suddenly went into slow motion, every detail shimmering with crystal clarity. The light refracting through the windshield, the expression on the other driver's face, the raindrops floating in the air, it all came out as clearly as a framed picture. That wasn't your imagination. That was your consciousness overclocking your nervous system, stretching your information processing capacity to its limits. Your brain doesn't measure time like a watch on your wrist. Time, for your brain, is a complex architectural construct, constructed moment by the temporal lobe, a grand orchestrator that coordinates sensory data, memory, and attention to create a unified flow called the present. And the amazing thing is, this orchestrator is more flexible than you think. Neuroscientist David Eagleman has discovered something remarkable. In moments of crisis, people not only remember more details, but the brain actually speeds up processing. Consciousness goes into overclocking mode, like a secret engine that only kicks in when survival is threatened. Neural networks light up, attention contracts to a laser beam, and you enter expanded present awareness. But the magic of time isn't just for urgent moments. It's part of our personal reality signature. Some people live in a slow flow, feeling each beat. Others are more of a flow-on type, where the days move more quickly. These aren't personality traits. These are measurable differences in how the brain allocates attention and sequentially processes information. Think of the state of flow that Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi described. When you're painting, when you're writing, when you're in a deep conversation, when you're programming, the hours seem like minutes. It's not that time is speeding up. It's that the prefrontal cortex, the internal monitor, the control clock, the inner critic falls silent. Consciousness stops being held captive by measurement, and you dissolve into the eternal present. Neuroscientists call this transient reflexive paralysis. But for the person experiencing it, it's a union with the invisible flow of the universe. And here's the kicker. You don't have to wait for a car accident or a creative moment. You can learn to navigate time. Time perception is not an absolute. It's the art of managing attention. You can expand it when you need more space and contract it when you need to speed up. Try this. In a stressful situation, instead of shrinking, take 3 deep breaths. Expand your peripheral vision. Become aware of the sounds around you. Feel your feet on the ground. Allow yourself to feel the space instead of just focusing on the problem. In just a few breaths, your subjective experience of time slows down. The world becomes less rushed, and you can choose to respond from stillness rather than react from chaos. When you grasp this secret, you enter a new kind of freedom. You are no longer a prisoner of the clock on the wall. You become the architect of your experience of time. You expand when you need intuition, contract when you need action, and in the process, you begin to see that time is just a frequency channel that consciousness can tune into. You'll notice a subtle but profound difference. Your thinking becomes clearer, your responses come from a place of clarity rather than automatic reflex. The neural mechanism behind this is like a sophisticated magic trick in which you are both the spectator and the performer. When your attention is narrowed, when you're stuck in a rut or a worry, your brain processes fewer streams of data, causing time to contract and a sense of urgency and pressure to arise. But when you deliberately expand your awareness, your consciousness is fed more data, more sensory waves flood in, and the world around you expands, creating the feeling that time is stretching its wings. When you need to focus deeply, on the other hand, the trick is to narrow. Eliminate distractions and gradually let your consciousness condense into a narrow river, flowing directly into the single task. And then the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that keeps track of time and judges performance, falls silent. You disappear into the flow. Hours pass that feel like minutes. This is not an illusion. This is a mental shift, where time is pushed aside to make room for total immersion. Memories also shape the flow of time. New experiences encode dense detail in the brain, so that when we look back, time seems to stretch out. That's why childhood summers seem endless. Everything is new, and every detail becomes a memory. As we grow older, we enter a routine. Memories become fuzzy, and time passes like a wisp of smoke. Understanding this holds the key. If you want to make time richer, seek out new experiences and learn to look back at the details you'd normally overlook. This isn't just a productivity tip, it's a philosophy of life. Time is not an objective stream that you're caught in. It's a silken fabric that your consciousness weaves thread by thread. And when you're truly present, as the meditative traditions teach you, experience the expansion of time through mindfulness, you're not wandering in the past, you're not running toward the future, you're living in the sparkling fullness of the present. Try this time anchoring exercise tonight. Sit down, breathe, and notice. 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you feel, 2 things you smell, 1 thing you taste. When you do this, you're not just relaxing, you're pulling your awareness out of the fragmented flow to ground it in this single, living moment. And then you'll realize, time isn't something that's passing through you. You're its maker. From here, a wider door opens. Moments of synchronicity, when you think of an old friend and they call you out of the blue, when you flip open a random book and stumble across the answer you're looking for, are no longer mere coincidences. They are patterns of information that your brain, in its coherent, alert state, is picking up from the ground of reality. Remember, your brain is a supercomputer processing 11 million bits of data per second, but consciousness only retains about 40 bits. Normally, much of this river of data is blocked by neural filters, but in a coherent state, those filters loosen. You begin to see subtle signals, sense energy, pick up patterns that pass by unnoticed. This is where synchronicity becomes science. Dr. Dean Radin of the Institute of Noetic Sciences has shown that human intention can influence random number generators, devices designed to be completely disordered. The deviations are small, but they show up consistently in thousands of experiments. It reveals a bold truth. Consciousness is not just observing, it is directly participating in the dance of reality. Once you understand this, you no longer see yourself as a helpless passenger on the train of time. You are the driver. You learn to stretch or shorten, open or close, grasp or let go, and in the process, you see that time, electromagnetism, and consciousness are just 3 different ways of describing a single phenomenon. You yourself are creating your reality in this very moment. The strange and fascinating thing is that these effects not only persist, but also flare up in powerful bursts during moments of heightened emotion or when you're so focused that you forget yourself. No, you don't magically change reality with your fingers, but the evidence is mounting. A coherent mind can resonate with the invisible information systems of the environment. When your brain waves are in sync, when your heart rate patterns are in harmony, you enter a state that researchers call high coherence. In this state, you become a living compass, sensitive to the underlying currents of the complex systems that surround you. Think back to the transitions in your life. When a job changes, when a relationship ends or begins, when a creative spark, when you embark on a journey of inner growth, how many times have you seen a surge in synchronicity? Chance encounters, recurring patterns, needed information suddenly presented to you. From a systems perspective, this makes perfect sense. Transition creates instability, and it is in instability that the underlying currents emerge. It's like shaking a snow globe. Only in the moment of chaos can you see the individual crystals swirling in the invisible air. But let's be honest, the brain has confirmation bias. It's always trying to weave disparate events into a story. So the key is to develop what I call calibrated intuition, the ability to distinguish between real signal and noise. After years of research, I've found that true synchrony often has 4 clear signs. Frequency, related events converge in short time frames, like the universe knocking on the door constantly. 2. Specificity, details so precise, they're creepy, far from the vague connections you might associate with any situation. 3. Timing, synchronization appears exactly when you need it most, like the key falling into your hand when you stand in front of the door. C. Personal relevance, information that connects directly to the question, challenge, or turning point you are experiencing. A coincidence may hit 1 or 2 criteria, but when all 4 converge, you're in the presence of a true synchronicity sign. And then there's the subtler layer of our time. Artificially synchronized networks. Social media algorithms, recommendation engines, shared cultural databases, all of them mirror what you search for, talk about, or even think about while you're holding your phone. They can create the illusion of synchronicity. Rather than a message from the universe, it's a feedback loop of technology. It's crucial to recognize the difference. The practical applications of understanding these patterns are so profound that they can be life-changing. I've seen entrepreneurs spot market opportunities by watching for recurring coincidence sequences. Artists break through the creative wall when they pay attention to the tiny clues that synchronicity sends. And ordinary people make life-changing decisions, not based on hard logic, but by reading the hidden language of their environment. The key here is intelligent pattern recognition, being both sensitive to signals and alert to analysis. Not every repeating number is a divine message, but some certainly contain valuable information about timing, about people, about opportunities. If you want to enter this conversation with reality, try this experiment for the next 2 weeks. Keep a synchronicity journal. Record your circumstances, your emotional state, your stress levels, the specifics of coincidental events. As you do this, you will begin to see your personal synchronicity signature, a unique energy signature that indicates how your environment reflects your inner state. When you reach the subtlest level, you will understand. Synchronicity is not a mysterious coincidence, but a living feedback system. It tells you the level of harmony between your mind and the external environment. It is a mirror and sometimes an invitation to step into a higher alignment with the flow of the universe. As you walk a path that is aligned with your soul's deeper direction, supportive synchronicities will multiply like guiding stars in the dark. Conversely, as you drift away from your optimal trajectory, meaningful coincidences will appear as warning signs, gentle but insistent reminders to bring you back. This is not superstition. This is consciousness's subtle pattern recognition of the complex information system that surrounds and penetrates you. Your electromagnetic field, your expanded sense of time, and your ability to sense synchronicities, they are all just different aspects of the same phenomenon. Consciousness, learning to read and tune into the deep music of the universe. The moment you start paying attention to the tiny ramifications of everyday life, something magical happens. You start to see more clearly what scientists call the butterfly effect. A nod of the head, a breath, a simple choice in the morning can set off a chain of events that ripples out forever. Think about your morning. When you open your eyes, what is the first thing you do? Do you pick up your phone? Or do you lie still and feel the silence? Do you repeat your familiar routine? Or do you stop and look up at the light filtering through the curtains and let it whisper something? These seemingly innocuous choices do not take shape in the next few minutes. They are small stones dropped into a large pond, creating ripples that shape the day, even the week, the month. This is where the concepts we've come together, time distortion, synchronicity, coherence, begin to converge. In this expanded state of consciousness, where time seems to flow, where chance events blossom into symbols, you're actually accessing a much wider spectrum of probability streams. The paths are still there, but now they're clearer, appearing as trails of light you've never seen before. Andy Clark's research on the anticipatory brain reveals something profound. The brain is constantly running countless simulations of the future, updating them every millisecond. And the quality of your conscious state determines which models are prioritized. In anxiety, the brain clings to threatening scenarios. In clarity, the mind opens up, like a door swinging open, to a flood of new possibilities. I remember a moment when I experienced this myself. A career crossroads left me stuck. Stay in a safe but sterile job, or venture into the unknown. Before, I had seen only two clear paths, safety or freedom. But in a deep meditation, something inside me shifted. The dichotomy dissolved. Dozens of new paths opened up, negotiating a part-time consulting gig, starting a side project, collaborating with a colleague in a similar transition. These possibilities didn't fall from the sky. They were always there, hidden in the stream of possibilities. It was just that my limited consciousness hadn't recognized them before. Hazel Marcus has talked about possible selves. We don't have just one future. We maintain several versions of ourselves at once. The cautious self, the bold self, the creative, harmonious self. In an expanded state of consciousness, you can sense these selves as underground rivers and see clearly the landscapes that each one leads to. And then the insight emerged. Managing attention is managing probability. Where you place your attention shapes the realities you have access to. When your attention is locked into fear, you enter into narrow, heavy realities. When your attention opens into compassion, creativity, gratitude, you enter into vast, abundant realities. This is not magic. This is how complex systems work. And your life is such a system where your inner state, your choices, your environment, and your opportunities weave together in a continuous feedback loop. Think of it like a sacred jazz band. There's a beat, there's a rhythm, that's the structure. But within that framework, improvisation flourishes, creating unpredictable melodies. Your life is the same. You need structure to keep from drifting, but you also need flexibility to join the universal symphony. And when you truly enter this state, you will see clearly. Every choice, no matter how small, is a butterfly. That flapping wing spreads into wind, into storms, into paths you never dreamed of. Every moment you enter meditation, every time you let yourself be embraced by nature, or when you let your creativity flow, your consciousness doesn't just relax, it expands beyond its old boundaries. You enter a state of receptivity, where subtle doors of awareness open, revealing invisible branches that lead into the future. When you clarify your core values and desired direction, not by fixating on a specific outcome, but by setting up internal beacons, you create a vibrant guiding field. That field begins to attract opportunities that are on the same frequency, while pushing away forced, rigid choices. This is the art of probability sensitivity, the ability to feel the quality of energy around each choice, knowing which path is open to expansion and which is simply a shell of fear. The difference is subtle. There is fear that comes as a faithful guardian, pulling you away from real danger. But there is also fear that comes as the ghost of habit, the shackle that keeps you in your old comfort zone. And you, with practice, learn to tell the difference. This is when the quantum leap stops being a pretty metaphor and becomes a learnable life skill. The amazing thing is, with each choice, your brain is rewiring itself. Every step, every yes and no, every new perception rewrites neural pathways. The old highways where you said, "I've always been this way. I can never be this way," begin to crack. The neural superhighways that once framed your identity begin to disintegrate. And then a profound truth emerges. You're not just changing your habits or your mindset, you're restructuring the very matrix of your identity. Neuroscientists call these critical periods of neuroplasticity rare but powerful. Moments when the brain becomes as malleable as it was in childhood. And paradoxically, it's the upheavals, losses, crises, major life transitions that open these doors. This is why it feels like everything is falling apart, like reality itself is unraveling. But in fact, that disintegration is preparing for a new creation. Just as tree roots break through the dry soil to reach a wider space, your brain is breaking down old structures to seed new pathways. Dr. Michael Merzenich has shown that this ability to rewire persists throughout life. But it is only with novelty, intense focus, or soul-shattering experiences that genetic switches are flipped and new neurotransmitters are released, softening the rigid walls. The unreality, anxiety, and depression that many people experience are not impairments. They are signs that the default mode network in the brain, the seat of memory, narrative, and self, is being rewritten. And here's the deep part. When old neural patterns dissolve, you don't lose yourself. You gain access to hidden versions of yourself. Selves that you were previously mentally unfit to touch. Each new choice becomes a portal. Each moment of awareness, a seed. You begin to feel that instead of just one unchanging me, you are a tree with countless branches, and you are now learning to reach out to unexplored branches. What many people call an identity crisis is actually a neurological rebirth, a sacred process in which the soul and brain join forces to open up a new self, more flexible, more open, and more profound. Listen to the voice in your head, the voice that keeps repeating the same old stories about who you are and what the world means. Suddenly, it becomes fragmented, inconsistent, even silent. It can feel scary, like a familiar part of you is falling apart. But behind that strange silence lies a rare opportunity, because it is a sign that the old barriers of identity are cracking, giving way to a larger space. Robin Carhart Harris has shown, in her studies of psychedelics, that when the default mode network, which holds our self-image together, is down, people begin to feel connected to previously unknown possibilities. They tap into perspectives beyond their old frameworks, feeling as though they've stepped onto another river of existence. But the magic is, you don't need chemicals to open this door. Life, with its shocks and big shifts, can just take you there. During these periods, your brain is like a silent builder. It runs countless comparisons between current reality and its old stored models, then notices a mismatch. From there, a series of prediction errors begin. You may feel lost, but your brain is actually doing sacred work, dismantling models that no longer fit so that new structures can be built. Imagine your identity as a giant neural network. For those who have organized it around a victim identity, the world appears to confirm their powerlessness. For those who have organized it around a creator identity, the same room, the same situation, opens up 1,000 possibilities invisible to others. These are not just attitudes. These are parallel neural realities. Carol Dweck has shown us the surface, fixed or growth mindset. But underneath, it means one person lives in a brain that scans for danger, while another lives in a brain that is tuned to recognize possibility. Two different realities, two different worlds, but coexisting in the same space. So what's the key? Consciously engage in the process of rebuilding your identity. When you find old responses becoming irrelevant, when familiar habits lose their power, that's a signal. Your brain is ready for an upgrade. If you let it, it will still replicate, but on the same trajectory. If you engage, you can shape the next version of yourself. Keep a journal, not just to remember, but to give your brain clarity about what is authentic and what is just programming. Ask yourself, is this really me? Or is it the voice of an older version, or even someone else who planted it in me? Each line you write is like a light shining into your neural labyrinth, showing you which connections to keep and which to let go. Visualize. As your brain becomes more plastic, it treats vivid mental images as if they were real memories. If you imagine your new self in full detail, the way your body feels, the lighting in the room, the sound of your voice, your brain uses those false memories to build new neural pathways. Take action. Even if it's just a small experiment, each behavior you choose to do differently is a building block for your new identity. When you say something your old self was holding back, when you step into a space your old self would have avoided, you're giving your brain the data to confirm, yes, this is the new you emerging. The result? A mental agility that few possess. An ability to bend to the changes of life without breaking, to stay core, yet be ready to innovate. In a rapidly changing world, this is more than an advantage. It is a survival skill. And then, when you realize that everything from the disintegration of your inner voice, to the electromagnetic synchronicity, to the feeling of time bending, is just different aspects of the same phenomenon, a profound understanding will dawn. You are not just living in reality, you are learning to choose reality. Like a master chef, you don't just follow a recipe. You taste, you adjust, you read the humidity in the air, you feel the flow of flavor. And with that finesse, you create something magical from ingredients that others find ordinary. That is you. Right now, a person learning to taste reality, feel the invisible currents, and actively choose the way you want to be woven into this universe. It's your enhanced nervous system, like a sophisticated radar, constantly scanning the world around you for vibrations and sending you environmental intelligence in real time. And here you tap into a profound truth. Emotions always precede thoughts. In that moment, your body has read the entire energy score. The look in your eyes, the rhythm of your voice, the softness of your breath, before your mind has a chance to construct a story. The slight twinge in your chest when someone is dishonest with the energy they emit. The strange expansion in your belly when you act in alignment with your deepest intentions. These subtle waves aren't imaginary. They're real biosignals, streams of energy information that most people pass by without ever noticing. And when you start living from this sensitivity, everyday life changes. You walk into an office building, and you don't just see the interior design. You feel. Whether the culture of the place is nurturing creativity or eroding it, you sit across from someone in an interview, and you know, before they even finish their sentence, whether this position will expand your possibilities or gradually narrow them. This isn't magic. This is your body acting as a living antenna, picking up signals that language never has time to express. In relationships, this awareness is even sharper. You learn to distinguish between genuine concern and a need to be nice. You sense when a conversation is opening up a shared energy field that makes both of you glow, or when it is draining someone's energy. And, most important, you see more clearly than ever which of your responses come from old programming scripts you've worn, like tight clothes, and which are fresh, authentic voices that come from the open present. Creativity is no longer a vague expectation. You begin to recognize the energy signatures of each state. Some days, your body calls you to detail careful, focused, fine-tuning every stroke like a meticulous silversmith. Some days, you feel the doors of intuition opening and ideas flow through you like an underground stream. You learn to design your schedule and environment to accommodate these rhythms, rather than using willpower to force creativity. But this is where the dangerous turn comes. Many people, when they taste their new power, use it to try to control, to manipulate, to gain advantage. They don't realize that the moment you leave the cooperative flow of life and fall into the desire to dominate, your sensitivity fades. It's like trying to listen to a delicate melody while you're shouting it all out. To truly navigate reality, you must practice what I call coherent response, both focused and open, holding on to multiple possibilities at once without falling into chaos, listening, but not clinging. And the practice is surprisingly simple. Every morning, before the world rushes you, take a few minutes of silence. Not meditation in the sense of forcing yourself, but allowing your nervous system to return to its natural rhythm, the quiet ground from which you can discern the resonance and the depletion of the day. Before a big conversation, an important decision, be still for a few seconds. Feel the energy of the situation rather than jumping into analysis. When the energy is so high that you feel overwhelmed, Don't hold it back. Let it flow into your body through movement, creativity, or service. Imagine yourself as a lightning rod, not against the lightning, but rather guiding it down to the ground, transforming it into a useful light. Of course, the challenge is real. Most people around you won't understand. So you need to learn to talk about it in practical terms. Instead of electromagnetic fields, you can simply say, I'm better at reading social situations than I used to be. Instead of probability flow, you can say, I have a natural instinct for timing. Simple language keeps the bridge open. And find community, not people who are fascinated by abstract concepts, but souls who have learned to translate heightened awareness into practical action. Because ultimately, the goal is not to escape from everyday life. The goal is to engage more deeply with it, from a position of empowerment. You don't withdraw from the world. You learn to weave yourself into the invisible patterns that run the world. And when you do, something magical happens. Your personal transformation doesn't stop with you. It becomes a ripple, resonating with the collective evolution of humanity. Remember, language started in small groups and spread globally. So does heightened consciousness. As you learn to walk in your new neural reality, you're not just unlocking yourself, you're unlocking the entire human race, one coherent heartbeat at a time. The same thing happened with humanity's greatest leaps forward. Remember, writing did not emerge all at once. It emerged in small groups, where a few individuals dared to look at the world differently and then passed it on to others through the simple act of writing on clay, teaching a child, or simply letting others watch them use the new tool. So it was with mathematical thinking. It began with traces in the sand, tentative symbols, and then spread like wildfire, transforming the way we measure the universe. Nor did the scientific method emerge from some global parliament. It emerged from a few intrepid souls who dared to believe that reality could be discovered by repetition, by evidence, by looking beyond old beliefs. And now modern research shows us consciousness spreads that way, not through dogma, but through human networks. Studies of social contagion have documented something amazing. Happiness, creativity, and even the ability to stay calm spread across 3 layers of connections. Your friends, people you've never even met are still different because of the quiet inner work you do. This isn't magic. This is data, statistics, social science. Notice, your colleagues see you handle stress with an eerie calm and unconsciously learn to do the same. Your loved ones see you engage in an argument that would have exploded into conflict, but now resolve it with clarity and compassion, and they begin to respond differently. Your friends see you make decisions from a place of indescribable depth, and even if they don't understand the mechanics, they sense the wisdom there. You become a bridge node, as researchers call it, a point of connection between your limited present and your potential future. Every time you choose to respond from expanded awareness rather than from unconscious habit, you don't just change yourself. You create a new energetic pathway in the morphic field that Rupert Sheldrake describes, a pathway that others can enter, even if they don't know why. And look at the global challenges: climate, inequality, technology running out of control. All of them require a higher level of consciousness than the one that created them. See? Your personal growth is not a private luxury. It is the fuel for collective survival. When you learn to combine intuition with reason, you help the collective intelligence become smarter than any single individual. When you maintain emotional coherence in the midst of uncertainty, you keep the social nervous system around you from collapsing. When you learn to see across multiple layers of time, you help humanity navigate the chaos. This is the basis of what we call conscious leadership. No title, no formal authority. It's the natural, infectious influence of presence. You walk into a room, and suddenly the conversation shifts to a solution no one else saw coming. You ask a question, and it opens up a whole new dimension to the discussion. You embody the possibility that others secretly long for, even if they don't know how to articulate it. And here's the beautiful paradox. The deeper you go into expanded consciousness, the more you find yourself connected to social responsibility. Some people fear that spiritual growth will take them away from everyday life, but the opposite is true. When you realize that you are part of the electromagnetic network of humanity, the desire to contribute is no longer a duty. It is as natural as breathing. You don't preach, you don't force. You live differently, and the ripples spread. But tact is required. Directly explaining about electromagnetic fields or probability flows to people still bound by linear logic often makes them defensive. Instead, you learn to express yourself through action, asking open-ended questions instead of imposing answers, responding with deep presence instead of words. And when you meet other souls who are expanding, you recognize it immediately, in the way they listen, in the light in their eyes, in the unspoken empathy. These connections become communities of practice, not for isolation, but for lifting each other up, for co-creating new realities. Imagine a society where the majority of people operate from an expanded consciousness, where political decisions are thoughtful and impactful across generations, where conflicts are resolved through understanding rather than violence, where technology is driven by wisdom and love, not just profit. Sounds impossible? But that's the natural direction of evolution. Every individual who chooses to expand is taking a brick to build that bridge. And you, right here, right now, are a part of it. Every moment you choose clarity over chaos, intuition over fear, creativity over repetition, you are not just changing your life. You are helping open the door for all of humanity to walk through.